Say what up, Mikey.
What up?
I assume it's recording my screen.
Well, it's recording all of us, but I need to allow screen share.
So what's up, Mikey?
I need to leave and come back.
All right, we'll be here.
Oh, bastard.
Wow. Mikey, what place are the Melonheads going to come in this year?
We're going to win.
Number
We're
one.
going to win. We're going to win.
I'd like to hear Mikey float some names for that number one pick.
All right. So
Oh,
I
there
had
it
to
is.
stop,
I guess we'll have to wait.
get out, and come back. All right. We good?
Yep, we're recording.
Yep.
We got your screen.
Okay.
We got only your face. Sadly, we don't see Mikey's egghead anymore.
Do you see my screen?
Yeah, I'm sorry, Mikey. That was me.
Yeah, fuck you.
There it is.
Can you guys see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, so the general idea here is during 2019 and 2020, it was way more apparent, but I'm not going to show that example because it's a shortened season. What happened was, so you have a team in first place who's, ahead, but they're already at the top of the standings, so there's not much more they can gain. Like, they're at the top, you can only, the only way you can move is down. But what I'm finding is that they're kind of pigeonholed. Like there's not much more they can gain from being on the top. Then you have teams 2, 3, 4 who are competing, and then you have the rest of the league who basically realize that, like, at whatever point, like, I'm not going to win. I'm not going to try for fourth place, third place, second place. I'm just going to coast to the end. Pick up guys here and there, but not like really push to make my team better, and regardless of whether trades. But it's more like the acquisition, the waiver wire pickups, and then like just making good baseball decisions. Should I start this guy, or just whoever's in my pitching lineup, I'm not going to touch it. Like, just leave those guys in there, not swap anyone out. So that's kind of like the mentality, and like I don't blame that because you're out of it. But what I found happening is those teams who do that, they start giving a little more and more points to 2, 3, 4 because those teams are still pushing, and they're just eating up, and they're kind of snagging those points as those other teams kind of fade. So what happens is you have, most notably, second place who starts creeping up and up. And 2019, it wasn't that big of a deal, and I'll get into that. But 2020, I went back and I looked up. I ate up a lot of points from teams who just started coasting. And as great as that was for me, like, it's not what you kind of want. Like, if I would have beat Mayrick, their team, I kind of feel like looking back at it, kind of be like, it wouldn't be as great knowing that, like, I just took points from teams because I was full steam ahead and everyone else wasn't like that. So
I know that this is not like only your opinion either. Like, Bill has talked about this in the past. Like, we used to look at the solution as everybody's got to we got to get on people to fill their lineup, but like start to realize that's not really realistic. So in lieu of that, back to Bill.
Yeah. So Mikey, what I will present, don't be offended. I'm not saying you guys shouldn't have caught me. I think this solidifies that these changes would not have affected 2019 that much. They would have affected 2020. So I'll just get into what I call the problem here. So I'm just working from left to right here. So runs, Mighty Melonheads gained a point from Simple Man, and I view this as fine because Simple Man is in the third place spot, who was pushing not as hard as we like, but who was still like doing enough. So
we'll note that the top there is the beginning of September and the end is the end of September.
Correct. Yeah, thanks for
All right.
that. Yeah, so you see here in the 9 points goes up to 10 once you look down there. So then wins. Mighty Melons lost a point for most interesting man, who is a non-top 5 team. Again, not a problem either. That's good on Sarni to steal a point, but again, the first 2 examples are not really problems. So then going up here to ERA. So I lost a point to ERA because, I kept starting guys, and I know Syke and Son was pretty new, but they basically didn't start anyone after a certain point. So Los Bravos lost a point from Syke and Son, new team, but they didn't come close to their start max. They finished with 115 starts, which the max is 170, and now we have a minimum, I think, of 160 or 150, whatever we decide on. So I view this as a problem because coasting towards the end, I get that they're a new team, but still coasting. And we were pretty close in ERA, so if they started someone, I think I have the better starting rotation, I would have kept that top spot. So a little bit of a problem there. Then we're working over to WHIP. Mighty Melons gained 1 point from most interesting man, who fell 2 spots and would have been a non-playoff team even before falling. So Mikey is snagging points from a team who's coasting, even though they gained on wins, so maybe it's not really that fair to say that they were coasting. And then the last one is ERA. Mighty Melons gained 2 points, one from Northside 9 and the other from Bad Boy Ed, Eloy Brown, both not fine in my opinion. Jimmy barely made any roster changes lineups. I think Jimmy, from the start of August to the end of September, has only picked up or made 1 move in their roster from adding or dropping. And he was in 4th place, so not what you want from a 4th place team. So he stayed in 4th place. Good on him. And then Irving was not a top 5 team. Irving was finished in 7th. He started in 7th. Again, not much movement there, but the point is you don't want to see snagging points from teams who are not in it or trying at this point, this late in the game. So the summary is basically just, what I just said. My conclusion is mixed. Like the first 2, 3 I talked through weren't necessarily big problems, but it's more of the later 2 that is kind of like mixed, but leaning towards not okay in that scenario. So I wouldn't structure this entirely around 2019, and I'll get into that why. So just head-to-head, like Los Bravos versus Mighty Melonheads. Mikey and Bill, you guys dominated batting, no doubt about it. Like you guys, nearly 40 runs or 30 runs more than I'd had, more home runs, a little more RBIs, and average was just a lot better. We tied in stolen bases, which we were at the top. So well done on the offensive front. But my pitching was then the opposite. We switched. I would have taken all 5 categories from you, and head-to-head, you would have edged out a little more than me, which is perfectly fine. The other issue, well, not issue here, but the other thing is I was already at the top of those in pitching. Like I had the best pitching without a doubt. So it would make sense that like I couldn't get any more points there. But that is the problem where I can only full steam ahead. Mikey can gain more points from teams who are coasting, and that's where the problem lies. So it becomes more of like me just waiting and hoping other teams do well to stop you from getting points. And not only that, non-playoff teams who would be in this. So this would be if we did playoffs for 2019. So at the top are the stats from the last month of the season. And the bottom is kind of what we would do for Roto. So just looking at the bottom here, if we just took the top 5 teams and then accumulated their stats for the last month, this would be the Roto standings at the end of the day or at the end of the season after the playoffs. So the idea here is you see over here, I don't know can you guys see my mouse?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Over here you see season. With 1 month to go, I had 88 points. Mikey had 82. Barbara 75, 66, and 53. These people start with that amount, basically where they ended the Roto season. And then for the last month, we do a Roto playoff. You'll see here that Mikey would put up 40 points. Like I said, like we were both pretty solid, but they edged me out. They did 3.5 points better than me. And I was at 36, he was at 40, and then we have 23, 17, and 32. Syke and Son did pretty well. Jimmy, making one move, did pretty bad in the last month of the season. Making one move might be the suggestion why. So if you take this last month playoff Roto points, you plus the season, I win by 2.5.
Before the last month of the season, correct?
What's up?
It's that number represents what they banked for the regular season as far as their stats. So they banked the Roto points, but their actual totals in the categories reset to 0, and they're now competing just against the other 4 in the top 5. That's essentially the proposal.
Correct. So up at the top here, I had 158 runs. Mikey had 190. Like these are the same numbers I showed you where we compared our differences. Let me see if I can go back here. Yeah, 158 to 190. So just like the team statistics at the bottom, the count, this is then how we would fare against then the remaining 3 teams that would be in the playoff. And, Mikey, 4.5, 5, 4.5, 5. Again, top among the best in all offensive categories in the last month. And then 4, 3, 2, 3. And then I was pretty dominant, 5, 5, 4, 4, 4. And you see Mayrick down here, 5, 5. They didn't even come close to their start limit, so maybe I would even have snagged those 5s. But Barbara would have had the 5th for saves there. So the point is, Mikey and Bill just, they, in my opinion, caught up to me fairly because they took points from teams who would have been in this playoff. But still wouldn't have been enough because I think that this just proves to me that, like, I kept the foot on the pedal there, and had I not, or had I thought, oh, they would never catch me, they would have definitely caught me in whether we stick with Roto or did this playoff idea. So at the end of the day, at the end of the season, I would have had 124.5, Mikey 122, Barba with 98, and then Mayrick would have passed Jimmy with 86 and Jimmy with 83. And I'm just going back. Yeah, Jimmy stayed in 4th place here by 3 points. This would have had him losing by 3 points and put him in 5th place.
But more importantly, if I could note, so you guys were way out in front at the end of the regular season. So under a format like this, you would bank those points. The people who are outside of the top 5, who we traditionally see their interest fall off, they no longer matter. You still have to have a good last month, but if you're head and shoulders above other teams in the regular season, you're not giving that up. You just need to have a good last month. And if you banked enough of a lead, you don't even have to have a good last month. You just have to not be terrible. Like,
right.
It's not going to punish teams that are great in the regular season. And it's also not going to reward people who are stealing points from guys who quit. If we go into the playoffs with like a pretty close race, a final month like this would be pretty fun, I would think.
Yeah, and for sure. And then, like, I mean, look at Barbara here. He's got 75, so he would have to make up what?
13
points from me. And I outscored him by 13. If I put up the numbers Barbara did and Barbara put up my numbers for the last month, he would have caught me. So I kind of feel like, good teams who finish the season are going to still be good. It's not like they're just starting from scratch and as if we redrafted based on everything. So I think banking is the right way to put it. Like, yeah.
I'm guessing you're in the FIFA.
Mikey.
Sorry.
Okay.
Thanks, Mikey. You just unmuted yourself. Oh, okay,
Yeah,
we're good.
he's muted.
All right, so yeah, so that's a good way to put it. Banking. So comments. So not the accumulation stats, runs, home runs, RBIs, stolen bases, anything that you're just adding to, that typically won't change and isn't really the problem from top teams and non-playoff teams. It's really the average ERA and WHIP where you start to see, whether a team decides not to go for their max. If they're sitting ahead in K per nine, they're not going to really give that up because they're not pitching any more guys. Or if they're only pitching starters and not relievers and not pitching starters, they would actually gain in K per nine right now and ERA and WHIP. So it's really those.
We have an extra rate stat that we added, which also skews this a bit and makes this a little bit more of a necessity.
Yeah, so I only put average ERA with the
Inactivity.
WHIP, but we now K per nine.
Yeah, we have another category where inactivity would be rewarded at the end of the season.
So yeah, if you're in 3, 4, 5, this might be more of a problem when you're fighting and for a money paid position because the 4th place team passed the 8th place team in ERA or WHIP because they are just or however you view that. So either way, my argument is not entirely that non-playoff teams or competing teams are giving up points, is that they do not scour the waiver wire to make their teams better / compete to stay with par with the other competing teams. They're creating more opportunity for competing teams to snag extra points because those other teams don't keep their foot on the pedal. And the first place team can only sit back and watch their lead shrink. Their main strategy becomes other teams doing their part and a lot less of their own performance. This playoff would push back more of their own performance in the final parts of the season, playoffs. So, and then just reiterating, Mighty Mellon had outperformed Los Bravos in the final month in offensive categories, but they were behind them in overall and could not catch them. The performance in the playoffs would allow them to have taken those points and catch up, but it was the Los Bravos pitching that kept them in first place. Head-to-head, Los Bravos beat out Mighty Mellon heads for all 5 pitching categories, and had they done better in pitching and maybe not as dominant, they would have beat out in both the roto for the full season or the roto and playoff idea.
Right, may I make a couple of comments as well?
Yep.
So a couple of the byproducts of this that I enjoy, we discussed this before. If we were to say reinstitute the rental rule that we had set up, which was disallowing it at the beginning of the season until a specific date, probably the All-Star break. So if we were to say rentals could only take place between the All-Star break and the start of the playoffs, number one. Number two, say that there is no trade deadline. So we have no trade deadline at all. We just have that rental window. So once the playoffs start, you're competing against 5 teams. If you know you need something in a category, you can go get it, and you only have to be best in that category for a month. So I think this is a way that we would kind of keep the bottom 5 who don't make the playoffs engaged, because if they have any kind of quality on their roster at all while those teams are in the playoffs, you can go get a piece for a draft pick or for whatever. I think that's incentive to keep the guys who are on the bottom 5 competing for future years, and the guys who are in the top 5 trying to as hard as they can to win.
Add to that too, though, a team might trade a lot of their draft picks early on in the season, and then when it comes time for playoffs, you kind of want those draft picks in hand, so it kind of spreads out a little more.
Yep.
Kind of how hard you push, because if I'm sitting in 5th place, I just squeak into the playoffs, but let's say I'm 20 points behind and I have more draft picks than first place, there is still that opportunity, so you will get lower positions wanting to fight, which means a bigger market for the teams who are not in it. So I feel it doesn't reset the marketplace, but it just adds more to it.
Yeah, it definitely makes it more fun, I think, more complicated in some ways, but yeah, and keeps people interested in a different way.
Cool. So I just wanted to show maybe 2020 how that would have looked.
Do you also have in there a proposal as far as dates for this year?
Yeah, that's in there.
Because I know the regular season is April 1st to October 3rd.
All right, so these are the team statistics for the playoffs up top, then the roto points, and then this is what would have been the playoff for 2020. So top 5 teams here. So going into this, FDS had 88 points, and I was sitting at 68.5 at this time. I, on the last day of the season, was ahead by half a point. So with 1 month to go, there was a huge difference. And then, like, this is just pretty apparent here. Like, FDS, over the last course of the season, outperformed me by 3 points here. So the fact that I was able to catch them in the last month of the season, and I think I went through this, I took a lot of points from a lot of other teams, and not all of them came from Simple Man, Desperados, and Northside 9 here. So I think this is just like a clear point of had I won last year, it kind of would have been pretty bad for FDS, because they would look back into it. They'd see well, Kevin took a lot of points from Kids, Melonheads, those lower teams. Simple Man. Well, Simple Man. Yeah, no, sorry, they weren't in the playoffs, but you get the idea. So yeah, now I'll flip back to this. So my recommendation is we keep 170 for the start limit.
Right.
We set a roto season, so the full season minus the month. We set it between 140 min and 150, and this we won't really be able to do this in ESPN, so it will take some outside tracking and your own ability to kind of plan for the future. And the idea here is we want a max of 150 because we want a min for the roto playoffs to be 20.
Can I stop you real quick also?
Yeah.
If a guy goes over our established roto max, as a league manager, we can go and pull that start from their stats if they leave guys in and go over.
Say that again?
So let's say somebody stops paying attention and they blow past the regular season max and they're skewing the standings because of that. We can go in and remove starters who they have making erroneous starts.
So a non-playoff team, or how do you?
Whoever. If it's somebody who goes, or if they do it, they go over by 1 because they're not paying attention. We can go in and take that out.
Well, that's when we get into penalizing.
No, I'm just saying right now so that people know.
Yeah.
That's how we enforce it. We can look at the date. We can see if you went over 150. If they're over 150, we take them away.
Okay. We'll have to iron that out, but yeah, I agree. And just to give you a heads up, so Pizzle and Irving in 2019, I guess I should have also taken out Mayrick. They were significantly lower, but the average for 2019 was 140 at that point when the playoffs would have started. And down at the bottom here, by 9/6, that would be the proposal to start for this year because it goes to October 3rd, so 4 weeks. The average the on pace for 170 would be 145. So I think it's appropriate to give 5 below, 5 above for the roto season minimum and max. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Okay,
so then the playoffs start 9/6 through 10/3. It's 28 days. It's exactly 4 weeks. So Monday through Sunday, 4 times.
Beautiful.
The minimum for playoff teams would be 20. It is at this point that we would not have to monitor non-playoff teams for their min. If they were within 140, 150 at this point, then you can choose not to go, but you should still make that. We'll have to figure out what the min for the full year should have to be, but not an issue. So by my calculation, the max potential starts in the playoffs would be 30 plus that last day push. So that is, I think, technically max of 5. It might be 4 because I guess you'd have to end with you'd have to be one below.
Yeah.
So it would really be 34. So pardon that error. So 170 limit set for the full year. The potential is 174 actual for the full season. So the playoff range for teams, they have to hit the minimum, so they have to have 20. So essentially for playoff teams, they can have from 20 to 34 starts, depending on where they finished the Roto season. So I'm okay with that. I don't think that's that wide of a gap, but it certainly, like, hey, if I hit the minimum and I'm ahead in ERA and WHIP and K9, and I'm already so far behind in Ks, like that could be a strategy, but it's not foolproof. There's going to be pros and cons to that. So I feel that if I hit 35 and someone hits 20 and I lost out to ERA and WHIP, they hit their minimum. It's 20 is still significant. So, that's where I think we should be. So, and then just reiterating, 9.6 pace that for 170 would mean 145 starts for this upcoming season. So 5 above, 5 below, that's where I think the min-max should be. So any questions here?
One thing I would say is this is all a plan to like make sure that the people who are at the bottom are not impacted in the race. So like September 6th might be too late to have the playoffs start. What if we were to make it either 5 or 6 weeks for the playoffs?
Yeah, I would be open to that. Just see how it would play out with the calculator. But I mean, certainly everyone would have to agree. I was thinking maybe 4 weeks might be a little too short, but
I think I like 5. I think 5 makes sense. You're talking about the end of August. For the most part, we get participation through the end of August, I think.
Okay. Cool. So then, just last is discussion. Just any open ideas or any negatives to this, really?
Yeah, I mean, the negative you could conceive is somebody goes into the final month with, like a small lead, let's say like 4 to 5 points, but they're in first the whole year. Maybe they were up 7 or 8 a week prior, and they gave back a couple points, so it's 5 points going into the last month, and then they have like a bad last month, and get beat by a point in the 5-man roto at the end. I'd like to think in most cases that guy would have lost anyway if he has a bad last month. And in circumstances like this where, like, yes, the calculus of what's going on in the context of the league changes a little bit because the bottom 5 fall out and you could lose, the top 3 in one category or something like that. If the top 3, it could happen, not saying it happens often. All of a sudden, you are the, third best team left pitching wise instead of being, the 8th best team in the league in pitching. So like it helps somebody who's in that situation a little bit. So it could be a little bit random based on, is there a category that happens to shake out in such a way that a couple of non-playoff teams are ahead of a playoff team by a lot. So then you're helping somebody who wouldn't have gotten helped. I think it's probably a pretty rare occurrence. And also like I can kind of live with it. Compared to what we see going on and what could happen, based on the stuff you were showing us. Like, if you had actually caught and passed Andrew and Stu, it probably wouldn't have been like, you probably would have felt pretty bad about it. Like the circumstances, I'm sorry, the other way around. The circumstances wouldn't have seemed fair if you had passed them.
Yeah, I just want to look up.
All in all, I think it gets rid of more problems than I could come up with it creating.
Yeah, so this is a year Joe won. I mean, most interesting man was still 9 points out. But, I mean, you look here, this tells me that, like, yeah, these two should have definitely been on top. But, let's say Sarny was a little closer. He's got a 5 whip here. Like,
Yep.
if he were just to take that from, and let's see how close he was. I mean, I was pushing there. Like, maybe Starney came closer because he passed Arya, passed Alex, and both of them are 9th and 5th place. So, but like losing out to passing Skippy in a category, passing Alex, so that's fine because Alex was top 5. But like he could have potentially gained a point here in the last month just because Arya checked out. And then let's see if there's anything else. I'm just gonna look for like kind of like things like that where the second place team was just poor. Okay, saves, average.
While you're looking at that also, so the way we would have to do it is you would have to continue setting your lineup in ESPN and like checking your stats there. But once the playoffs start, these standings on ESPN don't actually count anymore. We would be tracking it in spreadsheets and we would be displaying it on the website, correct? Like we would see a standings update at the end of the night on the website.
Yeah, so I'm in the process of building this out more, but ignore draft order. I'm not able to do that. But when you go to home, if you click seasons, it's going to auto to this year's. And then if you want to look at previous years, you go here. But basically, with all this information filled out, I would have another section here for playoffs. And it's going to look something like playoffs. I mean, it's going to look something like this, where it's going to say, hey, this is the dates where everything's starting. These are the statistics and standings as of that end of the season roto. And then right below is the playoff. And then every day I'll update this stuff, and then these will just update. I'll probably do it every morning, early in the morning, so you see it for the full day. But yeah, I don't think this will be in Google Sheets. I'm going to definitely try and get it in the website. And I just want to try one other thing. And then I'm in the process of completing the weekly totals spreadsheet that I provide every year. Now that weekly stats and daily stats are gone. Give it 1 second.
We're closer to having our own website for all of this than ESPN getting back to what we want.
So, I mean, I could also put them in here. I haven't built it out, but, where you go to check your weekly stats, it would be in that same worksheet if I can't get it in the website, but I think I definitely could. Or I can have it in here and just have it linked straight to the website, but we'll figure it out. And then the idea with the weekly stats here is, all your daily stats will be here. Just know like the average and the non-accumulated stats are going to be different from what's in here versus the playoff, because I actually have to calculate, hey, what are your total bases? Actually, no, what is your average or on base percentage, which I would actually just go into, I would actually go in here and I'd see if I can get to, probably can't get to 2020. 1 second, I'll show you what I'd have to do. I mean, long story short, I would just go in, copy everyone's stats each day, and then have them accumulate and have average calculated for that time period. So the last 5 weeks, it wouldn't be an accumulation of your average, like where you currently are. So,
Got it.
But yeah.
And we'll be able to display it looking like standings.
Yeah, exactly. As if like the season restarted on average, not picked up where they left off. This still hasn't loaded, eh?
It's gonna be a large recording.
All right, so let's say the last of the season, I'm basically copying this. So I'm actually taking the hits, the walks to calculate what the on base percentage was. So yeah, for that day it was 333, but on the last day I'm adding 10 plus 5 and then 40 at bats and then calculating it just for that time frame. I just can't like sum up or average the average on base percentage. It just doesn't work like that. So yeah, so I just copy this, boom, plug it in there, and I have it all calculate. Cool. And then the last thing is trading block. Alex has been thought of this idea, and I figured this would be the best place. I would basically limit who can change this information at the top of everyone's page. So like for Los Bravos, only I can update this. For Scrubs, only Alex can, and so on. But basically just asking for your preferred contact, way of contact, text, email, call, just propose or no preference, phone number, email address, and then best time to chat, weekdays, weeknights, weekends, so on. All day, every day, baby. And then status, basically just like your interest right now. Actively looking, not looking, do not disturb because I'm a douche. That is going to be left as is because anyone not willing or to be disturbed should be called one. And then yeah, just looking and then looking for, you can put position, you can put text here, or you can add more comments, but there's no, I'm not gonna like force you to put certain things like this where it's like weeknights.
This is where we would like for Mike to move his fire sale post from off the league page, move it over to the trading block here, right in the comments.
I mean, you can still like say like in the group text, like say, hey, I've updated what's available, looking to move, and then please see, go out there. So a lot of things. So yeah, I mean, looking for available. So. And comments. I still need to finish this up, but if it's not possible, well, I'll have to think of something else. But yeah.
Fantastic. Alrighty. Bravo. Well done. I'm stopping the recording. We'll see if anybody even gets to the end of the recording.